I'm going to allow maybe a minute or two to go through. I see a lot of comments coming through the general chat. I'll take care of a couple of housekeeping, and I'm trying to massage my cheeks. Both Matt, Aaron, and myself were laughing prior to this and having a really good time, and I'm really excited to kick off TMF Week 2022 Day 2 with the group that we have here today. So maybe just a couple of quick introductions, some housekeeping, then I'll jump into what it is that we are going to be tackling today. Just as a highlight, this is the first session of TMF Week. TMF and ISF, what is keeping sites up at night? My name is Michael Pupil. I'm part of the commercialization team here at Montreal, and incredibly excited to introduce our next two speakers. I became a huge fan of both Matt and Aaron at a prior event that we had gotten a chance to meet in New Orleans. The thing that drove me, and I'm going to set the bar here very high, guys, is their passion, for what it is that they do and the conversation that they're bringing to the table today. So I would encourage, as I go through some of the housekeeping, to definitely use the question piece. I know that there's going to be, a really interactive session today. But just to remind everybody, all sessions will be recorded, of course, and distributed. So if you were part of day one, you should have gotten that recording. If not, reach out to somebody within Montreal. All the attendees will receive that certificate of attendance for the entire week. Questions will be, kind of tackled towards the end, and both Matt, Aaron, and myself will try to get through as many as we can. Any of the remaining ones will be given over to the team so that we can follow up with them. And of course, following the sessions, there's always those networking breaks. So please feel free to stop by. I've already had a couple of really great conversations with people from all over the world, which is really cool about a virtual event, which has made this a lot of fun. Now, the fun part that I get to do. Introducing today's speakers. Erin Knight, who is the Administrative Director at the Texas Heart Institute Center for Clinical Research in Houston, Texas. She's a certified clinical research professional with more than 20 years of direct experience in clinical research in academia and hospital environments. Since 2013, Ms. Knight has served as the chair for the Society of Clinical Research Associates in Houston, Galveston. Additionally, she is the SOCRA National Board Member and a chairwoman for the Texas Medical Center and Clinical Research and Training Committee. So, Erin, welcome, and so grateful for you to be here. Love that you are rocking the shirt along with Matt. Matt Lowry is the Director of Clinical Research. Matt holds an ACRP, CP, and CCRC certifications through the ACRP, and as a member of the SCRS, ACRP, MAGI, and SOCRA. Also the most acronyms that I've said in a sentence ever. He has 15 years of experience in clinical research on both the site and sponsor level. On the site side, Matt has worked as a study coordinator, site manager, director of clinical research, and assists sites with regulatory affairs, including ISF oversight and administration. On the sponsor side, he's gained tremendous experience in monitoring clinical operations, TMF management, and has drafted and revised several protocols for a number of conditions. It gives me immense pleasure today to turn this over to both Matt and Aaron to kick off today's session. So Aaron, I'm going to remove this, if you don't mind sharing your presentation. And I believe we are ready to roll.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Matt, I'll let you kick it off and go.
So Aaron and I, we speak fairly regularly on this topic, and so what we were approached with this time was the TMF and the ISF, what is keeping sites up at night? And I'm going to hand it back to Aaron.
Well, we did an introduction already, so it's Matt. Matt, you want to say anything else about yourself?
No, just that Suncoast Neuroscience Associates is in St. Pete, Florida. I've been there for about 10 years, and we handle all things neurology related.
And I'm Erin Knight. I'm here in Houston, Texas, Administrative Director for the Center for Clinical Research until June 1st. And on June 6th, I will be taking over a different role, and more to come about that. And so let's get started, because I'd love for us to have a lot of time to talk about ISF and TMF and what's keeping us up at night. So this obviously is an insomnia-inducing matter for us and for you. Our biggest objective for today is to discuss how to effectively collaborate with sites to have a healthy TMF. What we want to do is we want to We'll be defining the challenges that the sites encounter. The end goal is to develop some possible solutions. So what are sites facing? What are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about 4 things and breaking those down. We're going to talk about lack of transparency. We're going to discuss communication, duplication of work, and then finally, lack of systems and or compatibility systems used between the sponsors and CROs.
So looking at the lack of transparency, for us, a lot of times we don't know what a sponsor expects from us for their TMF to be healthy. If a sponsor or a CRO has expectations about the ISF, no one really tells us anything beyond we need CVs that have been signed and dated within the last 2 years. We need copies of current medical license, and oh, hey, send us the completed and signed FDS, PSP, and the IBAOR. We're talking about acronyms. So kind of left in the dark when it comes to what exactly is expected from us. We also don't know how often the sponsor CRO is going to monitor our ISF. From my personal experience, I know that when it comes to IMVs, the most important thing, and rightly so, is going through and SDVing everything. But I know that sometimes, especially at my site, CRAs don't look at reg at all, or they will only look at particular sections. And then at closeout, and sometimes months after the closeout visit, they'll give us a long list of missing items that aren't in the TMF because no one has really monitored the ISF since we were activated or sometime during startup. And another question for me is, how often will the sponsor CRO audit their TMF and let us know what's missing or didn't pass QC, et cetera? And another question is, how will the ISF from the site populate the TMF? Not necessarily what document is going to go where. If you're following the reference model, we pretty much have a good idea about that. But for me, that black box is when I send a CRA or whoever, when I send someone a document, what happens to it then? I have no idea. Erin?
So no, I totally agree. First of all, I mean, if I can just kind of get off topic for a minute. Woo, these acronyms this morning. I don't think I've had enough coffee to handle all the acronyms that we're spitting out here. We have tons of acronyms in this business. But no, I do agree, to get back on topic, I do agree with Matt. The lack of transparency is something that we at sites would really like to have between the stakeholders that we have. We're all here together. We all need to communicate. And that really does segue into the next thing that we're going to be talking about, which is communication. There's a definite lack of communication between sponsors, CROs, to sites. Sites normally don't have a direct communication report to sponsors. Now, it has in the last few years gotten a lot better. There was a period of time where the gateholder of all communication was your monitor, was your CRA that was coming into your site, and you could never get direct communication to the sponsor. I have been seeing that has changed in the last couple of years, which is a fantastic thing. But I do think that we could do a little bit better with our communication between all the parties that are involved so that we can make sure that the TMF is healthy as we're going along and not just at the beginning and at the end of a trial. So that, who does the site reach out to? Again, interesting question. Who are we supposed to contact when it's just TMF questions? Who are we supposed to go to? The monitor is here to do certain specific work. They're here to look at our quality of our data, look at patient safety. They have a large responsibility when they come to sites. So is the monitor truly that person that we should be communicating for at sites? Just something to think about. Why don't we take that responsibility off the monitor and hand it to someone else that is directly working into the TMF so that we know that the ISF that we hold is directly communicating effectively into the TMF that the sponsor holds, so that we don't have any issues and questions at the end of our projects. Matt, do you
Yeah,
have
and
anything?
yeah, and one of the things that I don't necessarily understand about, why we have to only communicate with the CRA when it comes to anything that's related to reg. And yes, there are cases where sometimes we are talking directly to someone who is just reg and reg only. But one of the things that has always interested me is, as our industry gets more and more specific, the days the study coordinator doing everything from A to Z, those days are over. So as at the site level, as we start to specialize and we have people that do nothing but handle reg, there's a language there. And so, if we have someone at the site level speaking that language, why aren't we speaking the same language to someone on the sponsor and the CRO side? I mean, yes, the CRA, of course, they know about reg, but it's getting to the point now, like what Aaron was saying, where that CRA is there to look at source and make sure that things have been taken care of and patient safety, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have someone that is only handling reg at the site side, for me, it only makes sense that they would also be talking to someone on the sponsor and CRO side that speaks that same language.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think I got frozen for a second, but I think I'm back now. So let's talk about the next thing, duplication of work.
All right, so sites deal with multiple, and this is one of my pet peeves, and this literally does keep me up at night. So we deal with multiple requests for documents from multiple sources, especially during and after the closeout visit, and sometimes those requests come well after the closeout visit. Another one of the things that I don't particularly understand is I'm sure that when the sponsor and the CRO or their vendor, when they are auditing the TMF, that's when they're coming up with this list of missing documents or documents that they need again because maybe it didn't pass QC or whatever. So I don't understand, why aren't TMS being audited regularly? Because it's certainly happening either at the closeout visit or sometime after. And so the quote at the bottom of the slide there comes directly from a member site from the Society of Clinical Research Sites. And it says, a lot of the colleagues that I talk to, they're having the exact same issue. The main issue we're having with the TMF currently is months after the closeout visit, requesting long list of documents that should have been collected at or prior to the closeout visit. So this isn't an issue that is specific just to us or one site or just a subset of sites. People that I've talked to, it's happening everywhere. And so getting on my soapbox a little bit, sites are told all the time that we need to be audit ready at all times. So one of the things that I don't understand is why aren't sponsors and CROs holding themselves to that same standard? Their files should be up to date as well. So after we provide documents, often, like we were saying, we get these duplicate requests for the same documents, and sometimes that request is sent to multiple people at the site, and sometimes it comes from multiple people on the CRO and the sponsor side. So maybe it's an internal communication issue. Maybe the documents weren't filed in the TMF, or they were misfiled in the TMF, or maybe the CRA turnover results in documents not being shared or uploaded properly. But for me, the end result is the same. We end up having to deal with redundant requests from multiple sources. And it's, especially for me, it's very frustrating since we know that we've provided those documents and sometimes more than once.
No, I completely agree. And, what Matt was speaking of on the last slide is that, we do now in our fields, we have regulatory specialists on our team. We have people that speak the language. And so it should be transparent when requesting what work needs to come back out. If there is an issue with a scan or a signature or this or that, don't tell us we don't have it. Tell us this is not a good document. This isn't a good scan. This is the signature. We can't read it. We want that because for site, we have to, as our shirt says, document everything. We have to document everything. So if you have requested us to send you, just an example, very simple, a delegation of authority. If you've asked us to send that to you, but then you ask us to send it to you again 6 months later and nothing has changed, 9 times out of 10, regulatory specialists like Matt and I are going to give you the exact same email back and say, please see attached where I originally sent it. So you need to have that transparency with us. So we're not thinking that we're truly duplicating work, because that's frustrating on our side. What we want to know is why you're requesting the same document again. Just tell us what that is. And again, that kind of goes back to the fact that maybe the monitor isn't the appropriate person to give us that information. Maybe we do need to have a TMF specialist or someone else in the TMF side communicating with us and saying, we need this, that, and the other, because monitors are busy. Maybe they're looking at the list of documents that you gave them and they're just like, okay, I need a CD of 1572, this, that, and the other, and they don't see the reasons why. What's very frustrating when we have duplication of work on our side, because we have a lot of pieces moving, we have a lot of trials running at one time. So this takes an exorbitant amount of work on our side. And we have started to become savvy in these types of things where, you know, we have decided that maybe we need to start charging for duplication of our work and our efforts.
Yeah, I started doing that several years ago. There's a line item that I put in all of my budgets. It's called a post-closeout visit request. And the way I see it, it's already in the budget. It's already there. We don't have to negotiate it, because one of the things that I point out to sponsors and CROs, when they come back, they don't understand what it's for. I'm like, it's 6 months after the closeout visit, sometimes more. You're getting ready to go to the FDA and you figured out, hey, I don't have this one document. Well, would it be easy for me to provide that one document? Yes, it would. But then in the way I see it is I'm now contributing to the problem because I'm enabling that behavior. And I'll say, I'll provide this document once we have something in place that shows how we're going to be compensated for that extra time and effort, because our closeout bid is over. We've invoiced for everything. We're closed. And like Erin was saying, I have to admit, I do get a little petty sometimes, okay, on a daily basis. You know, Erin will say, okay, here you go. As you can see, I sent this document to this person. I'll say, I'm not sending it again. I sent it to this person on this day at this time. Y'all can go find the email.
I mean, it's true. It's totally true. So that segues back into lack of consistent compatible systems. So, you know, we're starting to see a little more consistency in this places, because it seems that more and more sponsors and CROs are adopting the TMF reference model and making that a part of their OPs for the trial. But the systems used varies between sponsors and CROs. Even if the same system is used, it seems that it's used differently. So lack of consistency, you know, has to cause problems at the sponsor CRO level, because it causes issues for us at the site level, and we aren't the primary users of these systems. If we as an industry are actively trying to standardize the TMF, shouldn't we also standardize how it's used, these systems are used and populated, and what different documents are called? You know, the thing is that the TMF reference model is a reference model truly developed for the sponsors to utilize. The TMF reference model, and we talked about this in New Orleans, the TMF reference model isn't the same language that we speak on the ISF side. So we need to get consistency between, or even develop an ISF reference model that can collaborate and work in conjunction with the TMF reference model. You know, also one big thing that just kind of dawned on me in the last few weeks, talking about systems and compatibility of systems, you know, we have several systems that we have to log into when running trials. We have an EDC system, we have an IVRS system to randomize patients. You know, we might have an imaging system that we have to upload documents. We have all these various systems. So we as the sites have kind of taken back our responsibilities and are implementing our own systems. I know Matt has an e-regulatory system. I have an e-regulatory system. And we're taking this power back and saying, you know what, if you want access to our ISF, you're going to log into our system now. You're going to get the documents out of our system, because we need to have some systems and processes in place to streamline and standardize this process a little bit more. You know, one thing that we're asking for here and is a single sign-on system. Can we utilize a single sign-on system that we can upload documents from the ISF if we need to? We can go to the EDC, we can go into the IVRS, we can just a single platform that we have a landing page that we can log into these systems instead of needing to have 3 or 4 different systems, passwords, usernames for every single trial that we think about. I know Matt's site's very busy, my site is very busy, but these types of things really kind of is time consuming on our side and really weighs us down significantly from trying to get what's most important done, which is the patient care and the data that you need to take these investigational products to market.
Amen. I don't have anything to add. She said it all.
Ha. I love it when I keep you speechless. It's yes, my goal for the day.
That does not happen often.
No, it doesn't, but I'll take the win. All right, Matt, back to you.
So how do we try to begin to fix the situation? You know, looking at what we've already said, it would be very helpful if we had a TMF point of contact between the site and the sponsor CRO. That way we're speaking the same language. It would be very helpful if there was a little more transparency so that we could come up with a defined workflow at the site level. And then what would be very helpful is if sponsors and CROs would audit their TMFs from time to time and let us know what's missing. You know, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly, maybe every 6 months. Ideally, it'd be more often than that. Because we want to make sure that we are giving you what we need, and we all know that part of the TMF is getting it in there on a timely basis. So for me, all of those are important, but for me, that third one would be so very helpful when it comes to just having a healthy TMF, because we know that what we're contributing to it is very important.
And again, you know, this comes back to the last one. It comes back to having someone that's specialized in TMF talking to us. You know, again, I think the monitors, they have a large responsibility on them. And if we could take some aspects off them and loosen out the load that they have between every single site, flying or having to do remote monitoring or whatever the case may be nowadays, if we can take that responsibility off of them and have that communication directly to us and our regulatory specialists about what do we need, what is missing from us, what quarterly report, we'll get those things done for you. Because again, we want to have things done as it's happening in real time and not wait to the end on that. So we kept our presentation today extremely short for a reason, because we want to talk about this. We want to hear from you guys. We want to hear your questions. We want to come up with solutions. Here's the problems that we have presented to you, but there are solutions that we can come to, and we find that that's very, very important in this conversation. So let's start talking. Let's see what you guys have, and Matt and I are here to answer your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt and Aaron. There's definitely a number of questions that came through, and one that came through the live chat, not necessarily as a question, but more as a statement. So I'm going to read 2 comments to you guys, and it had to do with the slide of the duplication of work. And Meredith writes, long list post COV, because data is more important than documents. Study teams will always prioritize the data, and time is made for the TMF after the data is in. And a subsequent comment to that was, agreed, the safety review and data understandably comes first. However, the CRO, we recognize the issue along with turnover, which is difficult to remedy. So I think those go hand in hand, but an interesting situational comment while we wait for Erin to boot back up. We lost her again. Wouldn't be a virtual event without that loss. But I think it's an interesting perspective, because it's the opposite side of the coin. So Matt, I'll throw that to you since we lost one of our partners here. But
sorry, I'm back.
There we go. There we are.
Yeah. So my knee-jerk reaction to that is I 100% agree. Data when it comes to safety, that's the first rule of medicine is do no harm. But then it also depends on the type of data that you're talking about, because that data is documented somewhere. And then on top of that, the TMF is used to reconstruct the study. The TMF is what is going to be audited by a regulatory body. So for me, yes, safety is always the most important thing, but the TMF is for me, the TMF is a very close second. So if you want quality data showing that your device or your drug works, well, you also have to have a quality TMF to back that up.
So I totally agree. And, one thing that I also speak about is being audit ready for inspections. And I talk to a lot of sites about that. And I know from my own experience being inspection ready, the FDA auditors or whomever's coming in from your regulatory agencies, they spend an exorbitant amount of time on the ISF when they come in. Yes, they do look at patient data because it's quite important, but they spend a lot of time on the ISF, which goes to show how important it is on their side as well. So again, I think if we can keep that in mind, knowing that patient safety and patient data is so very important, so we should have a singular person doing that patient safety and that patient data. Then we should have someone checking in on us doing the ISF, the TMF, collaboration together too, to see what are we missing. So we should have more than one person doing jobs here. We do in the beginning, right, Matt, when we are doing startups, we have a regulatory specialist that's helping us with startup documents. And then we have, person helping us with contracts. We have a person here and a person there. And then once the startup process stops, it just goes boom, straight all of that goes straight onto the monitor. Well, why do they need to have that exorbitant amount of work on them? I mean, I know at least what I hear is we see this on our side. Monitor burnout is real. I mean, it is, and it happens quite frequently, to the point where I know we even charge for monitor turnover at our site, because it is a real thing. So if we're wanting to keep these people that are coming to the sites and doing important work, why don't we loosen their load a little bit?
Yeah, and I think just to follow up on that general chat, I'm trying to keep up with the comments that are coming through. There's comments about not enough staff on that side. Comments even as simple as, well, sometimes you can make submissions without the documents on hand. It's not the right way, but it's the truth, and it's almost like, what is the ideal state versus what is the reality? And so I think this is very interesting, and it dovetails into a great question here posted by Rob. In an ideal world, would you rather access the sponsor's systems, to your point, Erin, about the standardization, or upload the documents into those systems that you have access to, or download what you need? Or would you rather give access of your systems to the CRA monitor so that they can self-serve? Well, in an ideal world, what would you position that as?
Well, I think for myself, because I have taken the time and implemented our system, I would prefer you to use our system. But I know that Matt and I and a few other people, we're few and far between here in being with the times and progressive with implementing our systems. There's a lot of sites still out there that don't have the means, the resources, the time, the attention to have their own systems. And so I think, yes, I would rather you use my system, but I don't think that I speak to the masses on that quite yet. I think that most people would rather have a sponsor system, but I say that with the caveat of single sign-on, one system, one landing page, access everything, single sign-on. Don't give us another system with another username and another password and another this and another that. It has to be streamlined. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, exactly what Aaron said, and then I'll try to speak for those sites that are still paper-based or not as far along in the E-reg world as Aaron and I are. Me personally, I would want access to a sponsor system, but kind of like in a sandbox environment where I could just drag and drop or upload my documents, and then someone on the sponsor CRO vendor side files them. I do not want to be responsible for putting something in the wrong place, because every sponsor, even people who are, even sponsors and CROs that are using the TMF reference model, they might have it slightly different depending on, you know, their company policy and their SOPs. So, yeah, that's me. I don't want to be the one filing. I don't mind being the one dragging, dropping / uploading, but no, don't give me access. Don't give me full access to a sponsor system.
No, I mean, I don't want access into the TMF. I don't want that, but I do want a place that I can drag and drop. Don't make it difficult on us. Literally drag and drop. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. How about email with attachments? Would that be also an easy, I guess, use of technology? Just to email it in if it's pretty specific.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing now, and it's not really.
And it's getting lost in translation.
Well, the thing is that when you're requesting documents via email, we only have so much capability of how much data we can send in an email. And Matt, do you have to zip files into an email? I know I have to zip files into an email. It's too much. And then we have to list everything that we have going on and what is this? No, that's too much work for us to do. I mean, it's old school. Let's get off of the email. Yes, it's fantastic because we have proof and documentation that we sent you all of these things, but so is putting it into a system where we have the back end that shows when we uploaded it, when it was accessed, and things like that with the audit trails.
I love it. Yeah, go ahead, Matt, please.
Email is, all right, I'll play devil's advocate for a moment. Yeah, email is fine if you're talking about a document or two. But when you're talking about these long lists of documents, especially the list that we get either before, during, or well after a closeout, I mean, we're talking about very long lists of things that they have found that are missing from the TMF or didn't pass QC. Sure. So yeah, I mean, email works in certain situations, but not all of them.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I mean, you guys are technology, savvy, and you're ahead of what I think is, most in the industry. So those areas that still rely on paper, incredibly difficult to drag and drop into a system where, email is almost like it is old school.
My life.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
not to be dramatic or anything.
It definitely has propelled. And actually, dovetailing, Jessica sent in a question which ties into, of course, the last few years, because I think over the last 2.5 years, there's been an adrenaline shot into the adoption of technology because we've all had to. As you see, everybody is, dialing in from their homes instead of offices. So Jessica asks, during these 2 years, how have your remote monitoring visits improved? What areas are yet to improve or step back?
Aaron, you want me to take this one since I'm the positive voice here?
Matt, you go for it. Yes.
Okay.
Go for it, and I'll chime in.
So for me, I love remote monitoring. I'm very tech savvy and I love the latest gadget. So when I first heard about remote monitoring, I'm like, this is wonderful. This is great. My experience with remote monitoring has been overwhelmingly positive. our E-reg system can be tweaked to serve as a repository for documents. I can make something that's completely separate from the ISF, is completely separate from everything else. So we can take the source documents, redact anything that needs to be redacted, and upload it. And it's there for the monitor 24/7. I can even put an expiration date on it, and I can go into the system anytime and see when that monitor or whoever looked at the documents. So for me, it's been a very positive experience, but I do know that there are those out there that have not had quite the positive experience that I've had. If I had to give one thing off my wish list for remote monitoring, it would be that a lot of sponsors and CROs are still very hard-nosed and very strict when it comes to what system they will use when it comes to the remote monitoring. If you have a site that has E-reg and they have a way to use their E-reg system for remote monitoring, please let them use it. It will make it much easier on the site. And I guess I should say, depending on the system and depending on how it's going to be used, give them the benefit of the doubt.
And so here I come, the negative Nancy, where, sorry if anyone on here's name is Nancy, that's not directed at you at all. But I wish remote monitoring has been good. It has helped, but at least in what I have seen, I've asked CROs, please bring your monitors back to sites. We get more done when they're on site. It frees up my staff significantly. I'm not seeing remote monitoring happening frequently. I have had some trials where I'm like, has it even been monitored? I don't even know what's going on. So I am on the flip side with remote monitoring, but I do agree with Matt with our systems. I think it's very important to get, if we have these systems, let them be used. Don't strike out the language in the contracts that don't allow people to utilize our systems. I had a meeting last week with attorneys for a sponsor, and they're like, we're striking this language out. And I'm like, you can't strike it out. That's not a negotiable thing. Well, we don't like it. Well, I'm sorry. If you want to do work with us, you're going to have to use our e-regulatory system. That's where we are now. It's a hold. It's a standstill. You have to have it.
It's a great approach because you're planting a flag and kind of saying this is how we're going to be moving forward. I think Chelsea asked a question here: what challenges do sites face with electronic ISF? And I would say overall there are a lot of sites that aren't as apt or want the new gadget or want the new toy and as technology embracing. And so in your experience in communicating with other areas, like what is the main challenge? What's holding people back from kind of taking the approach that both of you are taking?
Money.
Well, for me, the colleagues that I've talked to, some have expressed some concern when it comes to cost. And I've told them there's multiple systems out there. Some are expensive, some are more reasonable. There's even some free ones out there. When I demoed systems, it was a hard decision for me because all of the systems that I looked at were good. They were great. They did everything that I wanted them to do. So if you remove costs from the equation, I think what's holding a lot of sites back that are still paper-based is just resources and implementing it. Now, we're busy as it is. We're stretched thin as it is. Well, implementing a completely new way of doing things that gets rid of paper, which is something that we have, I'm not going to say embraced, but something that we have had to deal with forever and ever and ever. I think that's a huge obstacle for them to overcome. I know when I shredded my first paper 1572 because it was already in the, I didn't sleep for days. I literally, I just stood at the shredder for probably 15 minutes and I'm like, this feels so wrong. No, I'm breaking a law. You know, the regulatory police are going to bust down my door at any minute and arrest me and send me to FDA jail. Didn't happen. But yeah, I think that's the big thing. If cost isn't a factor, then it's just having the resources to implement the system.
Yeah, and I mean, some sites are, some sites are really big. And so when you're trying to roll out a system like this, it's like a mass shutdown of productivity because you're trying to roll out a massive system and get everybody on the same page to utilize it. I do think, and I applaud that how we're forced to get with the times 2.5 years ago. And start moving to e-signatures and other various things that were very old school and time consuming on our sides. But I even know just, at the beginning of the pandemic, when we were trying to implement e-signatures, I remember sponsors giving us tons of pushback on just e-signatures. We're like, if you need these documents right now, we have to utilize this. This is not, I mean, we're at home. What are we going to do? We have to have e-signatures. And it was like, we had to wait until the sponsors were like, okay, approved. It's like, we can only be as progressive as the sponsors and the CROs allow us to be progressive sometimes. I even have heard with our systems, well, are you still going to keep this on paper? No, I have it in an e-regulatory system. I have it in a system. And they're like, oh, but I need it on paper. So, I mean, we have to all be in the same mindset and culture for this to truly work, because sites are like, well, I had one person that kicked it back to me and they're like, no. And so I guess everyone's going to be like this, is going to say no. But that's the way that we think, because, sites are here too. And a lot of sites don't want to think about this. But Matt and I do in our roles. We're here to make some money too. I mean, we're here to help patients, of course, at the end of the day, but we're business and we have to keep our businesses open. And so we're trying to get recurring business. And so we want to be that site that's easy to work with. We want to be that site that's going to give you good, clean data. We want to be that site that's got the smile on. And anytime you need anything, we're there and we're there and we're there. And so you get that one person that's kicking you back and you're like, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. I'm not going to get the next trial. I'm going to do so. And then we go back and we digress because we're trying to get repeat business too. So there's a lot of things that go into this change in mindset.
Yeah, and maybe as just some parting comments here as we come to a close, on the technology vendor side of things, what I will say, to the group, and this is not Montreal specific, but any technology, that we have is going to change behavior, and that is more difficult than the technology itself. I'm still one of those people that rock an iPhone 8, and that's because I love it and I don't want to change it. And despite me even being in technology, and I'm not technology adverse, I just love this little thing, and away we go. And so it's working with the individuals to change that behavior, because as soon as you hit a bump in the road, what most people do is they will default back to the activity that they were safe in, right? Which happens to be an older technology or back to paper or what have you. So there is a tremendous amount of effort that needs to take place regardless of the tool that is used. And if the technology vendor is doing their job, whatever is purchased today should look a little different in a year from now. Technology moves so fast. And so there is always that upkeep of training and adoption, feeling comfortable and confident in what we're doing and not having to stand in front of a shredder, pausing, wondering, oh my God, am I ruining my life right now? So it definitely is a challenge. What I love most is, again, I knew that this session was going to go down this path. So Matt and Aaron, I'll conclude this session with a huge thank you for bringing your passion, your context, the clarity, and of course, you can see a lot of the comments. I will be forwarding you guys some questions that we were not able to get to today. There's a ton of them, which I think is why you wanted to take the stage today, the two of you, which is to create the discussion. And I'll leave it with one question that we will hit the pause to be continued, where Fran asks, how do we make 2022 the year of site records? How do we move to a confident ISF model moving forward? And I think that is a to be continued and to tackle over the course of the remainder of the year. Maybe it'll even straddle into 2023. So thank you both. I'll pause right now just to, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Thank you.
It was absolutely my pleasure.
Oh, amazing, guys. Shortly, we will be kicking off with no budget, no team, no buy-in. Sounds familiar? How to TMF without everything you need. Belinda's going to be tackling that piece shortly. And just a kind reminder, we do have networking sessions that happen in between. Head over to the lounge, chat with some colleagues that are coming in from around the world. I saw some countries all over the place, as well as in North America, Europe, APAC, Africa, Latin America. And of course, some of the monitoring staff will be there. So enjoy the conversations. Thank you again to everybody for the participation, amazing questions. And thank you again to Matt and Aaron. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.